Good evening, everyone, and welcome to This Week from Rockdale. This is the Sunday edition, and I am your host, Larry Cox. As we're all aware, this is Memorial Weekend, and this is the time that we pay honor to those who have given the ultimate sacrifice for their country, those who have died while serving their country in military service. So we would just like to honor those veterans who have given all, who sacrificed their lives, so that you and I can live the lives that we live in this country, and and that we have the freedoms that we have. Uh, so I think it's important that us citizens we do our part and we continue to protect those liberties and these freedoms so that those sacrifices were never given in vain. It's important for us as citizens to value the sacrifices that those have made in military service, and I just want to honor those that have given their lives and have paid the ultimate price. And this is a time that we pay tribute to them and we honor them because they are truly heroes who have given all for their country and for you and I. So just we thank them for their sacrifice and we honor them for their sacrifice. So let me get on here now and let me say hi to some people who have joined the show. So Mary Boysworth, how you doing? Danielle Munoz, nice to have you. Kathy Robinson, nice to have you. Marie Withers, nice to have you. Dan Burks, I just saw Dan a little bit ago. I'm going to talk about seeing Dan a little bit ago. James Corbett, Cheryl Garcia, Kathy Robinson, Charlotte Gellert. Nice to have you guys here today. So great to have you. And I'm going to talk. I don't know if we're going to go an hour tonight. Might be a shortened show because of the Memorial Weekend. We'll just see how it goes. I don't intend to go an hour, but we're going to talk first about the 2,000 Mules. We went, Alex, myself, and Dan. We got invitations to go as VIPs to see 2,000 Mules, and we were honored to be VIP guest, and Denise D'Souza was there, the producer and the filmmaker who made 2,000 Mules. So he answered some questions, talked about it. We had Congressman Marjorie Taylor Greene there. She made a few comments about some things. We had congressional candidate Jake Evans running in the 6th district. We had congressional candidates Mike Collins and Vernon Jones from the 10th district there. So we had, there were a lot of Republican activists that were there. So it was a crowded room. They touted it having 510 seats available, and I believe the majority of those seats were full. So it was a good show and good evening. And I'll tell you what my assessment of 2,000 Mules. First of all, I mean, besides myself, who I had watched about a half hour of the movie before I went and seen it. Today, I'd just gotten really busy, watched a half hour of it, and just never got back to it. But from my assessment of the movie, I don't believe we can convict anyone, any individual in particular, from watching the movie for voter fraud. But I do think the movie really shows us how voter fraud occurred, and it showed us we had a major problem with absentee ballot voting. In my opinion, the movie shows us we had a major problem with voter harvesting and multiple individuals delivering ballots at multiple drop boxes. So we had a perfect storm in 2020 with the COVID and the drop boxes, and we had the Democrat Party took advantage of that situation with the drop boxes, and there were some entities that played a major role in that. One of the things that Denise said today, he said, and it's true. He said Republicans focus on the campaign portion of the election. The Democrats focus on the election portion of the election. The Democrats look at everything that they can do to take an advantage and get an edge in the election process, while the Republicans focus on the campaign and touting the differences between the candidates and the parties, and why you should vote conservative and such. But the Democrats, they've got this saying, every vote should count, and they want every person who can vote to vote, whether you personally cast that ballot or not, or someone cast that ballot for you. It's very apparent that's what their intent is, that every person who identifies as a Democrat, in some manner, a ballot for them will be cast. Now, whether they cast it themselves or somebody takes that absentee ballot and casts it for them, that's the $1 million question. And when you look at the data that they present in 2000 Mules and the speculation of what could have what happened or possibly happened, then makes sense. And especially when you look at the geo tracking that they did with the geo trafficking, and they established the geo fence, which I know with our trucks with my company, we established geo tracking and geo fencing with those vehicles because we do something that we drive what we call by air miles, which if when we do that process, we don't have to do DOT logs because we're allowed to drive so many miles and such before we're required to do DOT logs, as long as we're around our home base. So we use geo tracking and we use geo fencing with that. And when we look at what data that True the Vote used with their geo tracking and geo fencing, it definitely shows a pattern of some irregularities that occurred because they took individuals devices. It would be the phones that were around 10 voting locations, and they had to be around them X number of times before they identified them as a possible mule. And I would just encourage, if you haven't seen the movie, watch the movie. And it's very interesting at what technique I think was deployed by Democrats in the 2020 election. But this is what I think. I don't really think anything's ever going to happen with this. No, nobody's going to determine, these individuals did this. I mean, it'll be speculation. But what I think eventually will happen is this. I think Republicans eventually will fall to the same tactics of the Democrats. They will start harvesting ballots just like the Democrats harvest ballots, and then you'll have that even out the process. At that point, when both parties are doing it, then something may be done about harvesting. But I think until then, and I do think that will happen. I think that Republicans will enter into the fray, and they will begin to participate in the ballot harvesting actions just as the Democrats do. I think it's something that we shouldn't do, but I think it's something that's inevitable, and it will be done to level the playing field. And that's just what happens in politics. The playing field will get leveled. Then people will say, "Well, no, we shouldn't be doing this," and then they'll say, "Okay, enough's enough. Let's go ahead and do something about it. Let's stop the harvesting. Let's make everybody play on this level field now." But like Dan Burks just said, it'll turn into a big food fight, and that's what it'll be. It'll just turn into a big fight of back and forth, and that's what I see happening with that kind of nonsense. And we just need to realize that at the end of the day, it'll just balance the playing field, and then once Republicans become better at it, Democrats, and they will. Republicans will. They will become better at the harvesting than the Democrats, and then the Democrats will say, "Well, you can't do that anymore because you're better than us." So that's what'll happen. So we've got some more people who joined us. We see Justin Kenny joined us, and we see that Laura Skelton joined us. Welcome everybody for joining us tonight on the show. Like I said, but yeah, Dan Burks, Alex McDonald, and myself went to Atlanta. We watched the show, and it was interesting. I mean, it was interesting to see the characters in the room. Now, I like one of the things like that just as much to people watch as I do for the event itself, to just watch the interaction and who mingles with who and who avoids who. I mean, with me, it's. I mean, I like to see those kind of things, and especially in that room with influential Republicans. It's very interesting to see that. So, I mean, with me, it was just as fun to do that as it was to watch the movie in its entirety and hear Dinesh D'Souza actually discuss the making of the movie and and what the intent was and what he thought about it after they made it and such. And it was very interesting. So I encourage anyone that hasn't seen the movie, watch the movie and develop your own opinion about it. Watch the movie, develop your own opinion. 2,000 Mules. It's still available. You can download it many different places and watch it. So that's what I recommend. I recommend you to go out there and download it, watch it, and formulate your own opinion on 2,000 Mules. So let me go ahead and stop talking about the mules. I've talked about the mules long enough. So we had some elections in Rockdale County. I'm not really going to rehash a lot of that. We talked about that on Wednesday, and I believe most everybody that is in the chat today was on the election show that Alex McDonald. I invited Alex to join me as a special guest host on on Wednesday. And that was a very good show. People liked it. They liked the analogy and the commentary. So we were just glad to provide that. You can go back and you can watch that show if you want to. But I do want to remind everybody, we do have a special election here in Rockdale County. Not special, I mean a runoff. We have a local runoff, and then I think the Democrats have a Secretary of State and a Lieutenant Governor runoff. But we have a runoff here in Rockdale County. The Board of Education candidates running in the one race, the candidates did not reach the 50+1 threshold. That was the race that Janie Jones, Tony Dowdy, and Tommy Plummer were in. So Janie Jones got 48% of the vote. Tony got 33% or such. Those two will be entering into a runoff. And I encourage all Rockdale County citizens and voters to go back out and participate in that election. I am going to mention, on the Republican ballot, we did ask the question: should the Board of Education not rehire Terry Oates as school superintendent? 61% of those answered that we should not rehire Terry Oates as a school superintendent. So what I would do for you guys is, why don't you reach out to both of these candidates and don't take this. I can't answer the question. It's not a fair question. It is a fair question because it was on the ballot and citizens of Rockdale County put their opinion out there, and 61% of Republican voters believe that Terry Oates should not be the school superintendent. So what I ask you to do is reach out to both of these candidates and ask them how they would answer that question. And they actually both got the opportunity to answer that question because they were Rockdale County voters. Ask them specifically, do you think the Board of Education should renew Terry Oates' contract? And it's a fair question. And they shouldn't, and it should be a yes or no answer. It's not one of this. It's not a simple yes or no. Actually, it's just a simple yes or no answer. the runoff day is the June the 21st. I don't know when early voting starts. Does anybody in the chat know when the early voting starts for the runoff? Does it actually start this coming week, or is it the following week? Because I don't, I'm not certain, and I'll look it up. Mary, if either one want to come on the show, I will have them on the show. All they got to do is ask. Janie was going to be on the show a few weeks ago, and on that day she was going to be on the show, I had some technical difficulties. My restream wouldn't let me log in, and by the time I got everything fixed and logged in, and I couldn't reach back out to her, and we really didn't touch. We traded some messages and such, but either one of the candidates want to come on the show, they can come on the show, and that they can come on the show, and I'll ask questions, and as always, you, the audience, can ask your questions in the chat, and I will ask the questions that you ask, and I think it's a fair question. You know, would you, if you were on the board, would you vote to extend Terry Oates' contract? Yes or no? And it's a fair question, seeing that 61% of Republican voters said they did not want his contract renewed. And I'll just tell you, I had a lot of Democrat voters reach out to me and said that they would love to have been able to answer that question. That they would have loved to have been able to answer the question if about Terry Oates. Bill Campbell's got something that I want to put up here too, and it was interesting. He says 82% of the Democrat voters voted in favor of a citizens oversight committee to oversee the county finances, and they did. What did Larry? I can help with Kathy with Kemp team. You can Walker's team. What did Kathy say? Oh, I did not see that comment. I'll put that up there. Thanks, Kathleen. Share with us how we can get activity involved with the Kemp and Walker campaigns for the fall. Do you have a specific contact? Please share. What I'll do is when both campaigns are sort of going to take a hiatus, I believe, for a little bit to regroup. And I know I've spoken with the Walker campaign, and they're going to get some additional info. They'll get us. I do have Herschel signs at my office right now. I will be getting Kemp materials, and I'll be reaching out to their campaign to actually, see how we can assist and help them. So yeah, we'll be reaching out as far as that goes with the Republican Party, and I'll give you some updates on that here on the show. What you can, if you're interested in that, what you can do with that and not. But we'll be also putting stuff like that up on the Rockdale County Republican page, Facebook page, and the website. So just check those the Rockdale Republican Party website and Facebook page periodically. And we will have information on there about what you need to do and how you can get campaign material and how you can help those teams. So we'll be putting that out there here in the near future. But like I said, those teams that won and are not facing a runoff situation, they're in the regrouping stage and preparing themselves for the general election run. So as soon as they do regroup and get their information out there, we will. We'll be providing that information on the Rockdale County Republican pages on the Facebook page and on the website. So that's what we'll do with that. But getting back to my Rockdale stuff I was talking about, but 82.98% of Democrat voters voted in favor of a citizens oversight committee to oversee the county finances. I mean, and that just shows you, a lot of distrust in how the monies are spent by our elected officials here in Rockdale County. The citizens, I can't help myself from talking about it. They send mixed messages. When asked these kind of questions and such, they'll definitely send a message that we don't trust the BOC, we don't trust the BOE. but then they turn around and elect the same people back to office. So it's a very confusing message. And a lot of it is just people are a little bit, they get weary of electing new people. They know the incumbents, they're comfortable with them. They would rather just ride it out with them because they don't know what that change looks like a lot of times. And that's what I think. And I think it comes down to what I believe specifically in our community is that we don't, voters aren't, um, they don't have a lot of knowledge on the topics, that voters aren't educated to the subject matter. And we do the best we can here on this show and some different groups that I'm involved with as far as spreading the word and letting people know different subject matter. And I think you can look at that anytime we do that and spread the word, 38 to 40% of those voters get that message and they get that information, and it's reflected in the vote. But also in the vote, you can see 62% of those usually vote the same way, the same track. They didn't get the message. And then when you have a talk with them later on, oh, well, I didn't know that, or I wouldn't have voted that way. And that seems to be the problem that we face as an electorate here in Rockdale, and not only Rockdale, but surrounding counties in the state of Georgia. It is very difficult to get voters informed about topics and subjects because they're busy with their lives, they're busy with just day-to-day living, and they don't hear about things. And people say, well, how can they not hear about things? Because they're not consumed with political activity. There are a portion of us who we are concerned about this. We on a daily basis consume this knowledge, but the majority of the people are not that way. And they may take in some political information, knowledge, public service stuff periodically. And they are just not aware of some of the things that you and I are. Now, they become very aware when their taxes skyrocket, and they don't like that. They become very much aware of policy things that occur, and they don't like that. But, what can you do? It's just like we've got this courthouse task force. And I think Dan attended that this week. I was busy doing some other things that I was obligated to do. And by doing that, I didn't get to go. So Dan told me that nothing really major happened at it. They discussed the importance and the need, and most of this discussion was about them going to decide and pick an architectural firm to move forward with it. But they did clearly indicate the purpose of that committee is to determine what they're going to do in Old Town. So and at some point, I do want to ask the question of the task force: is the purpose of this task force to represent the citizens, because it's a citizens task force? Are they actually representing the citizens of Rockdale County, or are they representing the Board of Commission? When we look, and we're going to talk about some election numbers again, can't help myself. There were several questions asked on the Democrat-Republican ballot regarding a courthouse in Old Town. The Democrats overwhelmingly said how that we should build a courthouse, look at building a courthouse somewhere other than Old Town. The Republicans answered that question in the exact same way. It was 85%, 85.5, which is 88.8, which is 89%. If Rockdale County should build a new courthouse, do you agree with in Old Town Connors by using bonds? And the answer is no. Almost 86% said no on the Republicans. And in the Democrat primary, do you believe Rockdale? Okay. It was the Democrats, it was 70-some% that somewhere other than Old Town should be considered. So it was very apparent when you look at how the Democrats and the Republicans answered that question, that the citizens of Rockdale County do not agree with building a new courthouse in Old Town. And the Republican question even asked about building at Parker Road. The majority of citizens actually said no. They didn't want to build a courthouse at Parker Road. So I think maybe a better question on the couple of questions, would you prefer renovating and adding on to the existing courthouse in Old Town? I have a feeling that question would have skyrocketed to a yes, because I've talked to a lot of citizens, and seems to be what citizens are leaning toward. They would rather see the courthouse renovated and added on to, rather uh, than building a new one. So that's just what that is. I mean, we can Monday morning quarterback that all day long, but at the end of the day, this is what we're facing in Rockdale County. We're facing that this board of commission is going to just ram and build uh, uh, a courthouse in Old Town, and there's nothing you or me or the fence post is going to do about it. And that's now, Clayton, just the Republican response was not supportive of Parker Road. Uh, and Clayton, like I just mentioned, I don't believe that the citizens want to build a new courthouse anywhere. I think from what these answers and then what I'm talking to citizens, I think they would prefer renovating and adding on to the addition to the existing courthouse we have. I don't think the citizens want to build a new building. And then we come up with this excuse: the building is just too old. You can't do it. It was built in the 1920s or whatever. That's hogwash. We can build on we can do many things today with modern technology. You can renovate that building. You can do things. We say that because they don't want to do that. They want to build a brand new building and put a plaque on it, their names be on it. That's ultimately what it comes down to. If they so desired, they could renovate that building and do an add-on, and it would work out perfectly fine. And that's probably the solution for what money they have, because with the PFA they got $110 million. $110 million will not build the new thing that they want to build. It will not do what they want to do. So I think it's interesting. Catherine Lynn, you're right, and I sort of said that just now. It's not just a courthouse anymore; it's an administrative complex. And with what they want to do, and with the uh, ambition that they have, $110 million will not do what this board of commission wants to do. So, taxpayers of Rockdale County, what does that mean for you? That means they're going to have to find money somewhere else to add on to that project. It means they're going to approve a project that they know that funding is not going to meet. Then they're going to have to go back to the legislature and say, hey, we're in the midst of building this project, and this 110 that you allocated with overruns is not going to do it. And we just can't leave a half-built facility in Old Town. You're going to have to raise the amount we can do a PFA. That's what will happen. You guys say, oh, that won't happen. That's exactly what will happen, because this BOC will put us in that kind of a bind. They will start building a complex that they can't finance, get a portion of it done, and then have to go back and say, and you know what? And the legislature will be in a position they can't leave them there with a half-built building in Old Town. They'll go back, they'll adjust it, they'll approve it, and you and I, the taxpayers of Rockdale County, will be on the hook, just like I've said. I have repeatedly said this. We are going to spend millions and millions of dollars in Old Town. Millions and millions of dollars. And I'll tell you right now, folks, you know what? We need to oppose many things right now and try to stop that. So, well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. There are some things that are in the works and that we are going to do. First thing that we're going to do is work, in which I've already begun this process as from the Rockdale voter standpoint. We have approached some of our state legislators and said the $15,000 additional dollars to senior citizens was a good start for the exemption, but it's not where we need to be. We will be approaching our legislature to introduce legislation to phase in the total exemption for senior citizens for the exemption for Board of Education property taxes. Second thing we're going to do, as from the Rockdale voter standpoint, you all know a few years ago we got legislation passed that we could do a ballot initiative, collect signatures, and reauthorize how the host is handled. Well, with COVID and different things that happened, it was just very difficult to make that happen with that signature process. So what we're going to do is, after this fall's election, the Rockdale voter is going to rewrite their petition, resubmit it to the Board of Elections, and we will start a new effort, and we will collect those signatures, and then in 2023 we will turn those signatures in, and we will have a special election to actually change the host to where 100% of that host collections will go toward the reduction of property taxes as far as for a homestead exemption for all citizens of Rockdale County. So that's what we're going to do. Those are two initiatives that right now we are going to do. Look, guys, when we took some licks. We didn't win the SPLOST ballot. That was a tough, hard fought thing, but the voters, they spoke, and it is what it is. But 95% of you in the Republican thing, and it would have been a similar number of Democrats would have answered the question, want an exemption for senior citizens. You guys will approve a tax relief in the form as the host. So these are things we can do and we can control. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's make those things happen between now and the end of 23 before we enter into the 24 presidential election cycle. So that's the goal of the Rockdale voter. The Rockdale voter will, like I said, we will work with our state legislature and our seniors in Rockdale County to increase the senior exemption in Rockdale County at 65 to a certain percent, and then hopefully by 70, 72 it'll be zero, and then we are then we will do the other. So those are the things that we intend to do. Bill, they're going to jack up the millage rate anyway, so we might as well get our exemption, and that's what our intent is. So we can do that. So let's make it happen. And then what we do once we get that host, we truly expose that commission as they have to go after us for that millage rate. And then that will probably be when the taxpayers of Rockdale County have had enough, when they just see this blatant raising taxes. I mean, we see it, but they explain it away. But I think it'll take it to the point where they won't be able to play the rollback game. They will have now, Dan, the petition is going to be a new petition. So I'm not going to ask anybody to go and sign the old petition for 1102. I'm going to actually ask Ken to take that off, and we're going to wait till after the November primary. And after the November primary, we'll have the number of registered voters that participated. In the November general. And then that will be the number that have the percent that we'll have to collect the signatures off of. So that's what we want to do. We want to wait till the November primary. The general election occurs. We will be working on our ballot petition and the wording and getting everything printed up prior to then. But right after the election, we will go file that documentation. I think we'll actually know the number maybe a little bit beforehand. So we may file that petition right at early voting, because I think we'll have that. It was 65. You're Clayton, Oregon. You're right. It's like 6,500 people voted against the SPLOST. Heck of a number. I know 10,000 people voted for it, but 10 plus, but 6 plus voted against it. That is a hefty number of voters. So A lot of people, they've got to be aware. That's a good chunk of the citizens that voted against that. So, I think that the citizens of Rockdale County, they're starting to become more aware and more involved. It's not at the number yet we need to change votes, but I think if we keep just pecking away, we keep knocking away, we keep informing voters, we keep bringing information on shows like This Week from Rockdale. Just to let you guys know something too, there's 5 or 6 sources out there of individuals who have different organizations, and these different organizations are always working on different topics. So Ken and a couple of the other Ken Holmes, one of the founders of the Rockdale Voter, also have been talking to the creators of these other groups, and they've been discussing of creating a blog and not only a blog, but using the Rockdale Voter website to actually coordinate and put all these efforts forward, like the shows from This Week from Rockdale. We'll end up putting them on the Rockdale Voter site. The Eye of the Taxpayer with George Kelichek, his information will end up going on the Rockdale Voter group. We have 3 or 4 other groups out there that are informing Rockdale County voters and taxpayers of a lot of things that are going on. Those groups hopefully will agree to put their information on the Rockdale Voter site, and then shows like this show This Week from Rockdale. We encourage you, the viewers, to share the show. We encourage you to let your neighbors, friends, and family in Rockdale County know about this show. And like I said, and we intend to bring guest on a lot in the coming episodes, so that we can get people on here to talk about issues, to talk about things that are going on in Rockdale County, because it's very important that the people have a voice and they have a say. And that's what we need to do. We need to make sure that people have a voice and they have a say. And we need to let them know, hey, if you don't want to watch, Cheryl, you're right. A lot of people don't have Facebook. But, we need to let them know if you want to watch This Week from Rockdale, that, we're going to put it out there on the Rockdale Voter page. And if you have YouTube, you'll be able to go watch This Week from Rockdale on YouTube. And that's the same thing as, the Eye of the Taxpayer. If you don't have their website or whatever, and we put that information on the Rockdale Voter, then you can go to the Rockdale Voter and you can read what information is out there. I think that that's what we need to do. And like I said again, you guys, by word of mouth and just through your different organizations, there are people that are on this chat that watch this show that are influencers, that they influence the community, that people pay attention to what they say. So it's very important that you guys spread the word of the different entities that are informing voters and informing taxpayers. Next door, the Voices of Rockdale, Voices for Rockdale. That's an excellent group, Ms. Corliss Turner. So, guys, if we just need to realize that together, and I said this about this past election, if we vote a certain way, we can reset Rockdale. I believe we can still reset Rockdale. I don't believe the fight is over. A lot of people say, Larry Cox, you're crazy. You just took the biggest ass whooping in the history of Rockdale County in this last thing, but you're still talking about resetting Rockdale. And it's because I believe we can reset Rockdale. It's just getting enough people informed. And this is just the start of informing the citizens of Rockdale County. Like I said, I believe when it comes to county and local, we need to drop the party insignias and we need to realize it's about community. If we work together for the betterment of the community and we drop the party stuff for local, then it would be better for us all. Because when it comes to the end of the day, we have enough money in Rockdale County. We really, really do. We have enough money. It's just deciding on how we spend that money and the best ways to spend that money. We've got the money. It's just how do we spend it, and what's the best way for the citizens of Rockdale County? And one of the ways we could do that is with that group that the Democrats proposed, the citizens group for oversight. We can do that. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to reset Rockdale. I think in 24, one of the things we need to do as a nonpartisan effort in Rockdale County, I think we need to put a slate of 5 candidates together to run for the Board of Education, to reset the Board of Education of Rockdale County, to run to represent the taxpayers, the parents, and the students of Rockdale County. Because we've got one individual who's running right now who in a debate stated that the purpose of the Board of Education was to represent the school superintendent. And that's not the purpose of the Board of Education. That's why I'm saying do your research. You've got 2 candidates that are running in that runoff for the Board of Education. You got Janie Jones and you got Tony Dowdy. Talk to both of them and ask them questions. Reach out to them. And if they tell you they can't answer those questions, then don't vote for them. I mean, those are my intentions. I'm going to talk to both candidates again. I'm going to ask them questions, whether it's on the show or not, in person. Because I'm a voter, and I have the right to know how someone who's going to represent me is going to vote. And if they tell me I can't discuss that, I can't whatever, then there's no need for me to have further discussion, is there? Well, a line in the sand thing with me, guys, is this. Will you vote to employ Terry Oates or not? And that they may think that's not fair, but with me personally, that's a line in the sand question. If you say I got to think about it or it depends, I'm not going to vote for you. The answer for me has to be I will not vote to hire or rehire Terry Oates. That's my requirement for my vote. And it may not be your litmus test. It may not be your threshold. But for Larry Cox, I won't vote for anyone for that position who says they would hire Terry Oates again. That's my litmus test. And I think you guys should determine your own litmus test. What answers do you want from those individuals before they would win your support and your vote? Well, guys, I've been on here a little more than 45 minutes, and I think that's long enough. I think we've discussed a lot of things tonight, and I think you, the voters of Rockdale County, you, the citizens, and you, my loyal audience, have heard me rant and rave, and I've not really rant and raved. I've been pretty calm and cool tonight, guys. So I just want to thank each and one of you for watching this broadcast, and I want to just encourage each of you to share the show, share and like the show, because it'll help us grow this show. And if we grow this show, then we grow awareness in the county. And that's what this show is all about. It's not about me becoming popular or me becoming something. It's about the citizens of Rockdale County becoming aware of what's going on and having access to information. Like I said, we will be having people come on the show. We'll have them come on and talk about different subject matter. So I highly recommend that you guys come on the show, share the show, so we can grow awareness with Rockdale County, because this is about you. It really is, and it's about you having an avenue and a way to share your voice and your message. So thanks, everybody. I look forward to seeing you on the midweek report on Wednesday. Have a good rest of the weekend, and let's just pray and like I said, remember those soldiers who gave all this Memorial holiday. Thank you all, and see you on Wednesday.